Hello and welcome to this video A08 in the series about autodidactic learning objects. The A series is about various techniques in GeoGebra, and this particular video, A8, is about the action object buttons. And with buttons comes scripts. So this is actually a tiny primer in how to write scripts in GeoGebra. My name is Jonas Hall, and I'm also known as the Mad Mathematician. So, what we're looking at here is, I've done a couple of things before I started. I created three numbers, R1, R2 and R3, as random numbers, using the command random between 1 to 6. This means they will behave just like ordinary six-sided dice. I've also created the sum of these as R1 plus R2 plus R3, and I've dragged them out to produce texts to make it slightly easier to see what's going on. I also have a variable called current max, which is just an ordinary variable set to 0. On the right here, you see I've opened a pane with this little arrow here. That's the command help pane. It shows you all the commands that exist in GeoGebra. And there is a section called scripting or programming. Here you'll find all the commands currently in use in GeoGebra. And there's one called update construction. It's when you click it, you can actually see various syntaxes down there. And this particular command has got a very simple syntax. It doesn't have any parameters at all. If you still don't understand how to use a command, you can always click the Show Online Help button and be redirected to the particular website where you'll find the help for that particular command. Right, so let's find the buttons. It's actually between the slider button, you'll find the button, the button tool. So you select the button tool, you click where you want the top left corner to be, and you get a dialog. The top line is what's going to be on the button. So let's type roll the dice, and I will just put in the update construction command. It will be red until it recognizes it with the brackets. And this command simply does exactly the same as the Control R. So I can type Control R to recalculate, or I can press F9 to recalculate the random numbers. But now I can also do it by clicking. Whoops. Let's make sure that tool is selected by clicking the button like that. Any button can actually be moved until you right click it, go into the properties, and in the basic tab lock the object. But there's also a scripting tab, and there are different types. There are three different tabs under that tab. This particular a button of course is something you click. So normally you'd type the commands in the on click tab here. There's also an on update tab. So for instance, a point can have a script attached to it, and when that point's position is updated, like for instance if you move it, then the script would run if you had a script in the onUpdate tab. There's also a possibility to accessing the global JavaScript that runs as you open the particular construction, but we won't go into that now. For now, the onClick tab is where you put whatever you want to happen when you click the button. Okay, and close that. So that is your first program. You just wrote your first program, perhaps. Roll the dice, and it updates the random numbers. We're going to make things slightly more difficult now. We will add a variable, and I will call it the current sum, and I'll just make that 0 for starters, and I'll add something here. I'll go into the properties, and I end up on the same tab I left off at, and I'll add a line saying that the current sum should be set to, current sum should be set to the value of current sum plus the sum of 3. This looks like an insolvable equation, but it's not an equation. GeoGebra will, like any programming language, evaluate the part on the right and see that, right, if current sum is 0 and the sum of 3 is 12, then the sum of that is 12, and assign this to the future value of current sum. So current sum will increase by the sum of 3 all the time. Okay, I click OK and close it for now, and I might want to drag current sum out here so that we can see what's going on. Roll the die, roll them again, roll them again, roll them again, and you see the current sum is increasing. Okay, let's have a counter. Let's have a number n equals 0, and go into the properties again and add a new line saying that n should be n plus 1, and that will be a counter that counts the number of clicks we've done. And we can now have something like our average equals the current sum divided by n. Drag that out, and it's slightly high because n started counting before, and n was 0 when we already had a sum. So we need to reset this, and to reset this we need a new button. So let's make a new button here, reset, and so n should be set to 0, and the current sum should be set to 0. And that's it. I don't want to update the construction there because that would roll the dice. I'll lock that one and that one so I can't accidentally move them. click reset, and there's 0. And you'll notice that this particular text is gone. But if I roll the dice, it comes up as 12. And the reason it was gone is because it was undefined when n was 0. So keep rolling, and you can see what happens to the average as we roll more and more dice. And you may want to check that with theory later on as well. So this is a simple machine run by one or two buttons with simple scripts. The current maximum, the variable I'd already began, you may wonder what that's for. Well, let's go and check the script here again. The current maximum, we're going to do something clever here. We're going to set the current max to the result of an if statement, which is om in Swedish. Now if the sum of 3, which is the total of our current throw, if that is larger than the current max, then what? Well, then current max will be set to the value of the sum of 3. If not, well, then the current max will stay as it is, and therefore set to be current max, because otherwise it will be undefined. That line with the if statement will find the record, if you want. Let's see how it works. Current max is 0, we reset everything, we roll the dice, and the current max is 9 because that's what we've got. Current max is 12 because 12 is larger than 9, 13, but now we rolled 7 and the current max is still 13. And you may notice that it will take a while to produce an 18. We're still at 14 after 30. No, it just jumped to 16 after roughly 30 throws. So you can make all sorts of investigations with scripts and variables. And that concludes the very basic scripting primer. Thank you for listening.